Hi everyone. This is an expanded look at some of the ins and outs surrounding solubility. Solutions can be classified in a couple of different ways: saturated and unsaturated. A saturated solution is one that contains the maximum amount of dissolved solute. It's soaking wet. The water, if you want to think of it this way, can't hold any more solute. It's reached its limit. The maximum amount of solute has been dissolved. This is in contrast with an unsaturated solution where that limit has not yet been reached. In an unsaturated solution, the addition of more solute will lead to dissolving. But a saturated solution, if you put more solute in there, it won't dissolve. It'll just remain solid. For example, at 20 degrees Celsius, 100 milliliters of water is going to dissolve 36 grams of sodium chloride. You can get 36 grams of salt to dissolve in 100 milliliters of water. So if I just put in, say, 5 grams, the maximum is 36, but imagine I put in just 5 grams. All that salt would dissolve. So I'm just going to put a little bit of salt. It all dissolves. Just 5 grams, it dissolves. Put in another 5, put in another 5, put in another 5. Let's say we're all the way up to 20 grams. All that salt dissolves in the water. I don't really even have to stir it up. If I just am patient and wait, all that salt is going to dissolve. As soon as I hit 35 grams, it's still dissolving. But once I pass 36 grams, that we reached the maximum amount. So let's say I put in a total of 40 grams. That's more than 36. That's past the limit. Then the water would be full of dissolved salt. It would be saturated. But because I crossed the limit, we exceeded that maximum amount, there would be some undissolved salt in there. And no matter what I do, if I stir it up like crazy or shake it or wait, that salt is going to stay in solid form. It's not going to dissolve. I crossed the limit and we have a saturated solution. If I put more salt in, it's not going to dissolve. We've reached that maximum amount. An important way of classifying solutions is this way: saturated versus unsaturated. A saturated solution, we've hit that limit, maybe even crossed it. An unsaturated solution, we're not there yet, and more solute could dissolve. Saturated solutions, they are at equilibrium. There's something really special going on here. We actually have a balance between dissociation, the solid separating into ions, and the opposite of dissociation, crystallization, where those two ions come back together to form a solid molecule. Here's sodium chloride. When we read this from left to right, you can see there's the molecule separating into its ions. That's dissociation. But if we read it from right to left, this way we have crystallization. This is called equilibrium. Notice the double-headed arrow going forward and back. It's not just that these processes are both present at the same time, they're happening at the same rate. As a result of this, we have constant observable properties. The concentration of the ions in solution over time is constant. The mass of any undissolved solid likewise remains constant. At the exact same time, at the exact same rate, we have a molecule dissociating, and at the exact same time, the two ions combining. So we have this switching going on. At the exact same time, a molecule dissociates and some ions crystallize. So over time, the concentration of the ions in solution is not changing. We always have the same amount of dissolved substance. At the same time, the mass of the solid is also a constant. Over time, that value is stable. However, there is this constant changing taking place. So even though we have these two constants at an observable level, at a molecular level, there is this switching going on. There's dissociation and crystallization happening at the same rate. And we call this equilibrium, sometimes even dynamic equilibrium. When we're thinking about solutions and solubility, there's two main ways that we can classify solutions. Saturated, the water is not going to hold any more solute, and unsaturated, where we can get some more to dissolve. For every chemical, there is a specific number there. It's related to how much water there is and what temperature the water is at. For example, if we had 100 milliliters of water, we could get 36 grams of salt to dissolve. Anything less than 36 would give us an unsaturated solution. Anything more than 36 grams would be past the solubility limit. We would have a saturated solution. When we have a saturated solution, that includes both dissolved ions and undissolved solid. When we have a saturated solution, it actually exists in a state of equilibrium. There's a balance between dissociation and its opposite, crystallization. This leads to some constant observable properties, even though at a molecular level, there is this constant interchange between the forward and reverse processes. And I hope that helps.